Well, hey there, Modern Math Teacher. Welcome back to the Modern Math Teacher podcast, Poolside PD Book Study Edition, where we believe math is so much more than just solving for X. And remember, this summer we are reading Math Therapy by Vanessa Vakharia together. And each week I'm sharing my biggest takeaways, the questions the book is raising for me, and how I'm thinking about applying these ideas in my own classroom. Now, before we jump in, please remember that the podcast is turning 3 on July 11th, and we are just 5,000 streams away from hitting my next big milestone, 50K downloads. So please, please, please share this with a friend, share it with a loved one, share it with 12 other people you know, whatever it is. I would just be so grateful. All right, you guys. Now, let's get into it. Remember, this isn't going to replace reading the book, right? My goal isn't to summarize every chapter for you. My goal is to reflect on the ideas that stood out to me and then invite you into that same conversation. So if you haven't picked up the book yet, don't worry. It's not too late to join us. I'm going to link both the physical book and audiobook in the show notes. But this week, we are talking about Chapter 2, what is math therapy? And honestly, you guys, the biggest realization I had while reading this chapter is that many of us are already doing more math therapy than we realize, okay? Now, one thing that I immediately appreciated was hearing Vanessa's story about how she discovered math therapy. She didn't just wake up one day and decide to become a math therapist. She noticed people were struggling. She listened. She cared. She responded. She was a human. And that felt so incredibly relatable to me because that's what good teachers do every day. And you're a good freaking teacher, listener. If you are here listening to me, you're a great teacher. You're a badass, as I just said, I don't know, in our Q&A episode a couple days ago. You're here doing this with us, and I appreciate that, okay? Now, throughout the chapter, Vanessa was super clear that teachers are not therapists, right? We wear a lot of hats. An actual therapist is not one of them. But there are situations where students are going to need support beyond our expertise and our training. Make sure you send them to the right professionals for that. Okay. But I also appreciated that she didn't use that fact as a reason for us to do nothing. Because while no, we are not licensed therapists, we can absolutely influence how students experience mathematics every day, every class period, every interaction we have with them, whether we realize it or not. So as I was reading, I found myself thinking about all the ways we already support our students socially and emotionally, how we help them navigate the frustration, work through that productive struggle, help them recover from their mistakes. We coach them through their challenges. We encourage perseverance. We're helping boost and build that confidence, right? And we've been doing that work for years. Carol Dweck's work around growth mindset, Joe Bowler's work around mathematical mindsets, productive struggle, student-centered instruction, you know what I'm saying. All of these things are connected, right? Math therapy isn't necessarily a new thing, but it's a more intentional way of thinking about the human side of mathematics, and I so appreciated that. Now, Vanessa is a girl after my own heart because she does things with alliteration, and she's got 5 M's. Mythbust, moderate, motivate, makeover, and measure. And girl, don't you know that I love me some things repeat. Keep it real, keep it relevant, keep it rigorous, right? My 3 R's, she's got 5 M's. I'm here for it. So we're going to spend future episodes diving into each one of these more individually and my reflections on those. So I'm not going to unpack them all for you today. You're going to read about them in the book, right? Instead, I want you to think of these 5 M's as a roadmap for your math therapy journey, right? It's a framework for helping students to build a healthier relationship with mathematics. And one of the things that surprised me was how quickly Vanessa believes this work can begin, right? She suggests that you can start moving through these ideas in roughly 2 weeks. 2 weeks! And you guys, that felt so refreshing because honestly, first 2 weeks of the school year, kind of a wash, right? And so many educational initiatives feel super enormous, and this feels super doable. Now, one of my biggest personal takeaways from this chapter has absolutely nothing to do with mathematics. And as I was reading, I kept thinking about Atomic Habits by James Clear. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know, as I'm reading, she brings him up. Swear, every time I have an idea, she's got it too. I'm like, girl, we're going to talk. So I read that book so many years ago when I was first starting my More Than Just X educational consulting. And I was trying to figure out how to grow something powerful and bigger than just my classroom. And one of those most powerful ideas from the book is that beliefs shape your identity. Identity shapes your habits, and habits shape your outcomes, right? So as I reflected on the idea through the lens of math therapy, I realized how many students carry beliefs like, I can't do math. And eventually that belief becomes, well, I'm not a math person. And if you believe that you're not a math person, The habits that follow make perfect sense. You avoid the challenge. You give up quickly. You don't practice. You don't ask questions. It's not because you're lazy, and it's not because that they don't care, right? It's because their behavior aligns with the identity that they have developed. So what struck me is that math therapy seems to be working in the opposite directions, helping students to build new beliefs, helping them establish a healthier mathematical identity, helping them build habits that support that identity, right? Because ultimately, our goal is not just to help our students learn geometry or algebra 2 even, right? Our goal is to help students become people who believe that they can learn geometry, algebra 2. And that's a completely different starting point. So, another idea from this chapter that I absolutely loved is Vanessa's encouragement to bring your whole self in your math class. And as soon as I read that line, I felt myself nodding along. I was like, absolutely. Because this is something that I've always believed and has always resonated with me. I love connecting math to the things I care about. Sports. My kids are involved in so many different sports. I love to bring sports, whether it's professional Detroit sports. I've been a long-time Red Wings fan. My entire basement is decked out in Red Wings. Even though we're not doing so hot right now, I became a huge baseball fan when my eldest son became a big baseball player. Like, all of those things are things that I tried to bring into my classroom. Gardening, camping, farmers markets, fitness. I'm a fitness freak. Podcasting, anything in real life, right? And I think our students deserve opportunities to do the same thing. Not because every lesson needs some flashy real world application, right? But because mathematics becomes less intimidating when it's connected to something more meaningful. When our students start seeing math and the things that they love also, the math begins to feel more like a place where they belong. So the more I read this chapter, the more I started thinking about those first 2 weeks of school. And if you're listening to this episode in July, you're probably already planning for August or September. Let's just be real, at least quietly in the back of your mind. So here's the question I want you to wrestle with. What if the first 2 weeks of school weren't just about your classroom procedures? What if they weren't just about reviewing prerequisite skills your students need to have mastered in order to be successful in your class? What if they were also about helping our students build a healthier relationship with mathematics, right? Helping them to establish that identity. And if you did the Productive Struggle book study with us, there's some great ideas in here. Vanessa has some great ideas in here. I'm really excited about it, right? As I read this chapter, I realized that's exactly what I'm planning to do with my Algebra 1 Proficiency Lab class this year, right? First day, I'm going to have my students write a math autobiography after I share with them my math autobiography. So that's my own personal homework when I go sit by the pool. Although it's 100 degrees outside and 110 with the heat index, so I might be staying in the air conditioning just a little bit longer, right? But I'm going to have them do that. They're going to reflect on their experiences with math, the beliefs they've developed about themselves as learners. And of course, we're going to create a classroom agreement. That is a big part of the illustrative math curriculum. It's always been a big part of my philosophy. And she mentions similar ideas in here. We're going to define success. We're going to set goals. We will begin officially journaling, right? I'm really excited about this. And we're going to start to build a foundation that says this classroom is a place where mistakes are expected and that growth is possible and your individual voice matters. And it all starts with belonging. One of the things that Vanessa talked about is priming the classroom with empathy and compassion, right? And this immediately made me think of the work that I've done with capturing kids' hearts and their social contract. And it reminded me of the illustrative math and the idea of creating a math community. Different names, same purpose, right? Creating a space where students feel safe enough to learn. And here's the realization that I had while I was reading. Math therapy doesn't begin with a journal prompt, okay? It begins with creating a classroom where students feel safe enough to answer the journal prompt honestly. That's the work we've got to put in up front. Journal doesn't actually matter if your students don't feel safe. And the reflection doesn't matter if students don't feel valued, okay? Goals don't matter if they don't believe growth is possible. Belonging has to come first. Now, one of my favorite lines from this chapter is our collective goal when implementing math therapy is to empower students to build a better relationship with math and in doing so with themselves. Guys, mic drop. I have not been able to stop thinking about that. So, because for my students, math isn't just a subject. It's part of their identity. When students repeatedly experience failure in mathematics, their story often becomes bigger than the content. I'm bad at math turns into I'm not smart, turns into I don't belong in this class, or I can't contribute to this group, or I'm just not that kind of person. And you guys, that's why this work matters so much. And why I'm so happy you are here listening along with me this July. Because helping students build a better relationship with mathematics isn't just about improving math achievement, right? It's about helping our students see themselves differently. So, as we wrap up on chapter 2, I want to leave you with a few questions to think about. What is it that you're already doing that you think could qualify as math therapy? And how are you helping your students build confidence, belonging, and resilience in your classroom? Right? I know you're amazing. You're already doing these things. So think about that. Reflect. What is it you're already doing right now? Now, if you are going to intentionally devote the first 2 weeks of school to helping students build a healthier relationship with math, what would you do differently? Okay. So this week's challenge is to head over to our Facebook group and join the conversation. Share one thing that you're already doing that aligns with math therapy. Share one activity you're considering for the first 2 weeks of school, and tell us which of the 5 M's you are most excited to explore. Remember, if you haven't picked up the book yet, not too late. Grab the physical copy or the audio copy linked in the show notes and read along with us all throughout July. Next week, we're going to be again diving in, or not next week. I think this is a Tuesday drop. So whatever. Next episode, we're going to begin by diving into the first of the 5 M's, Mythbust. And honestly, this chapter is shaping almost everything I'm planning for my math intervention class next year. Until then, you guys, keep reflecting, keep learning, and as always, keep it real.